Hello, everybody. Welcome to GM Joel's Chess Week recap on ICC. I'm your host, Joel Benjamin, and this week I'll be wrapping up the Hou matches and the Russian Championship, and also I'll be covering the Cigorin Memorial in St. Petersburg. All right, when we left off, Nigel Short had clinched victory in his match with Hou and Van, but the match had a surprising finish. Short got into an argument with match director Luc Van Velde about whether the last game would be FIDE rated. Apparently, there is a FIDE rule that states that games played after one player has clinched victory in a match do not count for ratings. Now, I think it's a silly rule. If you're playing in something like the World Championship match, somebody like if Carlsen gets enough points to win the match, you stop playing. Or if it's an exhibition match, like a 6-game match like this one, you're going to play all the games and they all should count. Now, one wonders why it was so important to Short, who had been dominating the match, but he clearly wasn't himself in the last game. In the ensuing Facebook war, Nigel was accused of not trying in the last game, and that seems kind of unfair, as we're going to see it was one bad move that doomed him. So let's get to the game. Hou and Van playing white, and sometimes the player doesn't want a game to be rated if they have black, has a greater chance of losing. So standard fare so far, Roy Lopez. Um, Nigel has never been a martial guy, so he doesn't even threaten the martial attack, that gambit. Cigorin, well, since we're going to talk about the Cigorin Memorial later, it's good to have at least one game in the Cigorin variation this week. Queen c7, and that's old school as well. Okay, so notice the bishop goes to d7. You might think, well, what does the bishop do on d7? Why not go to b7? But if the bishop goes to b7, then white is going to play d5, and the pawn on d5 blocks out the bishop. Another question about this opening is whether black should trade on d4, and you can go either way with it. If you don't trade, then at some point white may play d5, and then black won't have maybe won't have counterplay on the queen side, but also white might not have an easy time making use of the space because the position will be more closed. So Short looks to get going on the c file, and so Hou defends with the rook. The knight can also come to e3, but that often leads to trade of knights after knight c4. So Hou and Van plays rook e2. The knight can come out to g3. Bishop d8, and this is a very interesting move because in this opening you see more often the bishop retreating to f8. This kind of setup, rook e8, bishop f8, is so common in many openings, but particularly the Roy Lopez. The thing is that then comes bishop g5. So if black wants to retreat the bishop to f8, very often he needs to make some kind of commitment on the king side, like h6. Not everybody likes h6 because then it's harder to play g6 and cover the f5 square. So the bishop goes to d8, and also there's the idea that this bishop can later come out to b6. Okay, so Hou plays b3. One of the ideas is to stop the knight from going to c4, and the other is to put the bishop on b2. All right, so you see black is clearing the way for the bishop. So now white decides to chase the knight, and it's almost trapped, but winning that tempo, black is able to save it, and b4 keeps that knight on a6 constricted. All right, now b4 is attacked, queen d2, defend. Knight c7, so this knight is rerouting to look for some open squares. And now Hou gets busy on the other side.